hi, good evening, and welcome to the best show in town. Well, apart from the Irish Hospital, we're the second best show in town. THFC Till I Die. Welcome with myself, Phillip Brady, and Queen Elly Hoybier. Phillip, how are you? And everybody wants to know, how's the tractor?
Oh, I'm sure it's found a good home by now. You know, somebody's £500,000 poor after buying it. But yeah. Oh yeah, no, I'm fine actually. Not keen on international breaks, to be honest with you. I'd rather be looking forward to a Spurs game at the weekend, but sure, has to be done, I suppose.
It is, and Ireland have got a game tomorrow against the old Scots. So do you know? We'll hopefully beat them, and then I'm going to the Armenia game on Tuesday with Dave and Ollie. We're going to miss you there, Dave. There, Phillip. But if Stephen Kenny
there in spirit.
Doesn't pull his finger out, I will be down that touchline after him. So he's been warned. and down below, she's Horbier's biggest fan. She probably is England's biggest fan, and she's Tottenham's biggest fan. Elly, how are you this evening? And how's the old enemy? How are they playing?
They're playing rubbish. And Harry Kane just went down injured, you know, but he got up, thank God. But what I want to know, more importantly, is Philip's tractor a combine harvester?
Why? Have you got the key for one, Elly?
I haven't got the key, but I'm looking for it.
I think between Phillip and Elly, they could.
It off me. I think Philip's got it in his treasure chest.
Well, I think between the pair of you might give Jeremy Clarkson the run for his money on Amazon Prime. Now, there's a new season.
Yeah. That was very good. That was a good show.
Phillip and Elly doing farming. That would be hilarious. I would pay to watch it. That would be hilariously funny. But let's welcome a few people in. Big up Corey Boy says, good evening all. Big up to the legend, the music legend that is Brad Matthews. And please, everyone go over to his channel, like, subscribe. This man does some brilliant stuff. So big up Brad. He says, happy Friday, everyone. I've had beers. Let's do this. I hope you enjoy it. We've got Andrew Gregory. Evening, guys. We've got Mick in. Big up, Mick. Welcome. We've got Lisa in. Big up, Lisa. And then Mick is saying
big up, Lisa. Big up, Mick. Big up, Corey Boy. Andrew.
Right, guys.
And
well, we are doing the 60s. We're going to take you on a magical mystery tour between 1950, 1960 to 69, 70. Go through the double side, the first team to win the European trophy, the first team, I think, in so many, I think, last century to win back-to-back FA Cups. And also, they won it again in 67 and go how great Bill Nick was as a manager and some of the great teams and players. And then at the very end, we'll be going through all the news, the music, and the Irish news of the 60s just at the end. If you're still with us for a bit of fun, we're going to do that at the end because a lot of things happened in the 60s, including apparently we landed on the moon. That could turn into another conversation because I don't know Phillip and Elly's views on that, but we'll keep that to the end.
And Dermot, I'm the only one out of us three who was born in the 60s. I'm a 60s baby's boom.
Baby boomer.
Yeah, 1962 I came into this world and Marilyn Monroe left it. Oh, that's a shame.
You replaced her.
I replaced Marilyn Monroe, but with the dark hair.
Fair enough. And we've got big up Ollie. It says, hi, Elly, Dermot, Phillip. Chilling, having a beer. Good comeback for the under-21 watching England now. Ollie, how can you be watching the enemy? I'm sorely disappointed in you, sir. Surely disappointed.
He wants to have a laugh, that's why.
Yeah, well, I don't blame him, Ollie. Just laugh away because they're probably
it's either that or watch the paint dry.
Yeah. We've got Mick. It says, I'm good apart from having my COVID booster. I've got so much pain from it. Yeah, I know you feel really do. And then
I feel for you.
Hi to Andrew. And then Lisa is saying, this is going to be a lot more interesting than the England game.
Yeah.
To be fair, Lisa, you probably could play marbles or you could probably play chess to be more interested in watching England playing.
Italy have just scored.
Yeah. So that's going to be and we've got Ollie Freeman laughing, big up Ollie, and then we've got Brad Matheson. Italy have just scored, and Lisa saying to Nick, "Shall we get on with the show and talk about the '60s, Tottenham being successful, which is what we're all here for?"
Yes.
Right. So this was the end of the '50s, the start of the '60s. Do you want to take us through this, Philip? I mean, we finished third in the league, and then, just take us through it and what you know about that season.
Well, this is before my time with them, but this would have been the season that they prepared for the double. This was the team. This was the season they gave notice that something special was on the way, and it was the following season. Played 40 scores. We only got two points for a win in those days, so that's why the points total doesn't look as big as it should do. Newport County in the third round. Imagine then the 4-0. Then they went away to Crewe and drew 2 each. I believe from what I hear, fortunate enough to get a 2-2 in that one. Yeah. But then they came back, which I think is still a record-winning score for Spurs. There's 13-2 in the replay. Poor old Crewe goalkeepers probably still having nightmares about that one. But then, of course, like every good Spurs team, not consistent enough at the time, and going to Blackburn the next round to get beat. So, end of the cup.
Well, why break a habit of a lifetime? Surely to God.
Exactly.
Can we not say we were Spursy back then?
They're our nemesis, that Blackburn team.
Yeah. I mean,
that was a season after Bill Nicholson took charge. He took charge in 1958.
Yeah.
So that would have been his second season in charge. And he was just bedding in at that stage.
I mean, Elly, we were 10-2 up at half-time against Crewe Alexander. It's our biggest ever FA Cup home win. I mean, his first game in charge, didn't he beat Everton 10-2 at White Hart Lane?
Yeah.
First game in charge? 10-4.
10-4.
10-4, yeah. You have to double Everton's score, don't you? Got to give him some double in the top.
59-60 season, okay, but now they're going to go for the big one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all the seasons for the whole 60s, and I'll get the guys what you think. And what we've won, I have put beside the seasons. So we'll start with the first year. As I said, we finished third in 59-60. Then the double win inside, which we will go into depth in that in a minute. Philip, do you want to take us through that? I think we won our first 11 games. You take it away and just...
The 11 games on the trot, which is still, I think, still a record. It may have been equal, but certainly hasn't been beaten. 11 games on the trot they won, and like 66 points under the old system was quite a... That's the equivalent of 33 victories.
2 points for a win, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2 points for a win, you know. So it was. But then, strangely enough, you know, they strengthened the side. Well, I regard them as strengthening the side between those 60-61 and 61-62 by buying Jimmy Greaves. And I would have thought that would have been enough to retain the title, but obviously it wasn't. And we dropped down to third. And look at the difference in points. 14 points less. You know?
Yeah.
Like Jimmy Greaves coming in and scoring a hat-trick on his debut against Blackpool. And, you know, we won the FA Cup, beating Burnley 3-1 in the final. So, you know, it was a start of a goal. Well, those 2 seasons plus the 62-63 were probably the 3 most successful seasons in Spurs history. You think about it.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, Elly, the way I could describe Tottenham in them early 60s, we were the Barcelona of the early 60s of world football.
Yeah.
We were the best team on the planet.
Yeah, we were. We played very attractive football.
Yeah.
Scored 115 goals in that season and only conceded 55. And you can imagine the pitches they used to play on, Dermot and Phillip. They were playing on mud baths. I've seen a lot of the games because I watch them all the time because I wanted to see, in particular, how Danny Blanchflower coped because they said he was a fantastic sweeper. You know, I wanted to see Dave Mackay. I wanted to see all the players actually, but Bobby Smith as well up front. You know, because he was a giant of a player. He was built like a brick house as well. Yeah, I mean, it was exciting times for all the fans then. I just wish I was alive. It's a shame because I came in 1962. So that was the season, 61-62 was the season that Jimmy Greaves was with us. And I just remember my dad talking about Jimmy Greaves when I was 3 years old. I could barely even talk. Yeah, take it in. You know, but my dad was drumming it into me that this 1960s team was special. And we were very, very special.
Yeah, we really were. I mean, Philip, I mean, how good was the 61 side? It was just something, I mean, it eclipsed the 50-51 side, but I don't think it was something anybody had seen, wasn't it? It was sort of
No, it was. I think the seeds were sown the previous season. You know, coming third in the league, and the fact that Bill Nicholson was getting his feet under the table and organising his team. It took him maybe 2 seasons to get to where he wanted to be, and he had a very cosmopolitan sort of lots of Scotsmen, Welshmen, English. It wasn't just an English team. Like in those days, there was no foreign as such.
No.
So a foreign player was really an Irishman or a Welshman or a Scotsman. And with Bill Brown in goal, who was a very dyed-in-the-wool Scotsman. He had Ron Henry, English, Maurice Norman, English, Danny Blanchflower, Northern Ireland, Dave Mackay, Scotland, Cliff Jones, Wales, Terry Medwin was Wales as well. Bobby Smith was English. And I'm missing somebody out here. Les Allen.
Terry Dyson, English.
Clive Allen.
Les Allen, English.
So, I mean, they had so many strengths in every position. And I think nobody could just cope with them. Nobody could cope with Spurs. It was probably the most, again, I would love to have been a fly on the wall or been around at that stage to watch those matches. Because can you imagine White Hart Lane packed to the rafters and the noise coming down, you know, as you win match after match after match. You know, the nearest thing I can think to it would be the 2016-17, the last season at the Lane, where we were unbeaten at home. That's probably the best season we've had at home since the winning team, you know. And it's great. And it's great to see so many of the players still around. And Cliff Jones looks like he can still play for us. He's that fit. Yeah. You know, and I know a few of them have passed. Bobby Smith is gone, and Bill Brown is gone. Maurice Norman is gone. Danny Blanchflower, Dave Mackay. You know, most of them are actually gone. In the next season. So, you know, I just hope that like those players would never have earned more than 30 or 40 quid a week in their careers. And I'm just hoping that I know Bobby Smith fell on hard times and the club bailed him out, or the club gave him his medical expenses. They paid Jimmy Greaves his medical expenses as well when he had his stroke. So I hope the club is beneficial to the players that actually made us great. You know, you hate to hear of players today that probably aren't fit to tie the bootlaces of the Spurs team. Now earning 150 grand a week. Something wrong there. You know, they really. Sport brats, we'll call most of them.
I agree. I totally agree.
I mean, Elly, we've got the stats here from the top 3 goal scorers in the club in the 60-61 season. Bobby Smith, English, 28 goals in the league. He was a league top goal scorer that season as well. 5 in the FA Cup, 33 in total. You've got Les Allen. I think Les Allen is the uncle.
Is the uncle of Clive Allen? Paul and Clive Allen.
He's Paul Allen's uncle.
That's it. Yeah, I knew Phil though.
There is a question actually I want to put to the panel, and I'll be putting these little questions in during the show. So keep your eye on that. What is the link between the 61, 62, and the 1991, and the 87 and 91 FA Cup final? There is a link between all 4 cup finals.
It must be the Allen family,
Well, it was for the. This was for the people in the comments, Elly.
For the chat. In the chat, I thought you said to the panel.
No, for
you
the
said
chat.
to the panel.
No.
Okay, all right.
You know, you're just looking at that there. Bobby Smith. Bobby Smith was the striker the goalkeepers absolutely hated Because back in those days, you could actually charge the goalkeeper. They weren't a protected
Yeah.
species that they are today, you know. And Bobby Smith made a habit. The first couple of minutes of every game he played in, to put the goalie into the back of the net, say, "Listen, lads, you know what's going to be like for the rest of the match."
You know what? That's very interesting. Because I saw a documentary on him where Jeff Stelling was interviewing Bobby Smith, Cliff Jones, and Terry Dyson. And Bobby Smith is so quietly spoken and so calm. You wouldn't have thought he would be like that, but he was a terrier on the football pitch.
He was. He was a house angel and the street devil, I think.
I know.
So they were the top 3 goal scorers of the 60-61. Cliff Jones, I mean, that man still looks like he's 60 today.
Oh, he's a brilliant player. Absolutely superb.
Yeah.
He was lightning down the wing. He was a brilliant winger.
He was. So that was there. So I enjoyed doing that. And this is now the FA Cup run of 60-61. Elly, do you want to take us through to the quarterfinals? And then Phillip, you can take us through to the semi-final and the final.
Yeah, so on the 7th of January 1961, in round 3, we played Charlton Athletic. We won 3-2 at White Hart Lane, and the attendance was 54,969 with Les Allen and Dyson. Les Allen with 2 and Dyson. And then on the 28th of January 1961, round 4, we played Crewe Alexandra. We beat them 5-1.
We got off lightly that time.
Fantastic attendances. 53,721, and we've got Mackay, Jones, Smith, Allen, and Dyson. 5 separate scorers as well, very interestingly. Right, then round 5, 18th of February 1961, we played Aston Villa at Villa Park. Attendance 69,000. Wow, that's amazing. 2-0, we won. Cliff Jones got both goals. So over to you, Phil.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just amazed at the crowds that the FA Cup generated.
Sorry.
Go back one.
Yeah,
we'll go back again.
Going away to Sunderland was no joke. I mean, Sunderland were a real powerhouse at that stage, you know. 63,000 in, and we got a draw in the first game, and look what we did in the second match. Hammered them 5-0 against 65,000 people in the ground. You know, it doesn't bear thinking about. Semi-final, Villa Park, another 70,000 people in there, and Bobby Smith got 2 and Cliff Jones again. Cliff Jones was a regular scorer in the cup that season, wasn't he? Really?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Burnley. This Burnley game was kind of a dress rehearsal for next season's FA Cup final. Beat them comfortably 3-0. Leicester City with Gordon Banks in goal. Beat them 2-0 at Wembley. In the good old days when the semi-finals weren't played at Wembley, because I think that's a ruination of the FA Cup, is playing the semi-finals at Wembley. It's special to get to the final, to leave the final at Wembley, the semi-finals play at Hillsborough or Villa Park or somewhere.
Yeah, and you can see Dyson was a regular scorer as well. He scored 4 goals for us in that cup run.
So prolific. Very good player. He scored 8, 10, 11, 16, 21 goals against 5.
That's fantastic.
I mean, they really were playing the Spurs way, weren't they?
Yeah,
beautiful. Beautiful football.
Got a couple before we go to the final. Got a couple here from Brad. He says the Allen family. You're spot on, Brad. Elly got it first anyway, so Elly and Phillip, I'll give you a point each.
Sorry.
Brad, you get a point and a half. Brad also said Clive Allen in 1987, spot on, and then he said. Brad also says, which I don't agree with, Brad. I think you both would pull, actually, to be fair. That's my opinion. If I went out with Cliff Jones on a night out...
Brad. See, Brad's a very humble man, isn't he?
Yeah, he should bring his guitar with him. He'd have no problem then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then we played Leicester City in the final, Phillip. I think Gordon Banks was in goal for Leicester, if I'm thinking
it was,
correctly.
yes. And the guy called Frank.
We didn't play well, did we? It wasn't the best game.
No, it was. It's a bit of an anticlimax, really. It's a bit like the League Cup final against Villa and Norwich in the 70s.
Yeah.
Villa especially turned up, didn't play particularly well, but still had too much for Leicester, really. You know. And like it was just I think the players, they're bound to be nervous because the double hadn't been done for 60 odd years.
Mm.
You know, and here they were on the verge of making history. And fair dues to them. And I believe that the parade down Tottenham High Road on the following day was something else altogether. There was 100,000 people turned out.
Well, Brad was there. He says, I was taken to the Tottenham High Road when we had the open top bus parade for the double season. I was 9 months old.
9 months old. Ah, he was still a little toddler.
And how old were you, Elly?
I wasn't born.
She wasn't twinkling in her father's eye at that stage.
Yeah.
And you, and the same for you as well, Phillip?
I had different brothers who were born.
I was just out of nappies at that stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, because we won the league...
I can't imagine still in nappies.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, here, come on. This is getting off the subject.
I've got that picture in my head now.
And then we'll go through the seasons very quickly, and then we go through to the, I think we're the first London club to qualify for the European Cup, so we've got all that run to talk through. In the next part of the seasons, we finished 2nd, 4th, and 6th again. Of course, won the Continental Cup. We'll go into depth with that in a minute. And then in between 66 and 68. Phillip and Elly, I'll start with you, Phillip. You can start seeing decline, can't you? Apart from the 67 season, you can start seeing
the double team. The double team started to break up around 63, 64. I mean, Danny Blanchflower was in his 30s at that stage. Dave Mackay hung around until 67. Then he went to Derby County. Some of the other players were just moved on. Like, we did replace them, but probably not as good a replacement campaign as there was prior to us winning the league. I mean, we brought in players like, I'm trying to think of the names of them now. Jimmy Robertson,
Terry Venables.
Terry Venables came from Chelsea. Jimmy Pierce,
Roger Morgan.
They were good players, but they weren't just. They didn't have the X factor. They didn't have the X factor.
Yeah,
and other teams were strengthening. Man, like that was the year Man United. The decade Man United came on very strong, and Liverpool as well. So to finish 8th was actually very disappointing. But as far as I can remember, that was the season of the World Cup in England, and Jimmy Greaves went down with hepatitis during the season and missed a good bit of it, and that's probably why he didn't feature too much in the World Cup itself. You know, and that's one of the great things. So Jimmy Greaves did not even get a winner's medal until much later on, because only the team that played got medals. Tight-fisted FIFA, but eventually Jimmy got his medal in the end. But like, imagine playing in the World Cup final, getting injured during the match against France, I think it was, missing the final, not even getting the medal. It must have been heartbreaking. If no one returns to the drink, because I'm sure a lot of people would have. But the 66-67, that was the year we won the cup. Again, beating Chelsea in the final. That was a great one. They beat that lot. It really was. That was a good season.
Yeah.
That was a good season.
Yeah. And I was at that point, right?
If my memory serves me right, you're a little 5-year-old that went to that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, he took me, and I was on my dad's shoulders, because I was his only daughter, so he doted over me. I was on my dad's shoulders. I can't remember a lot of the match, but I can remember the crowd and the rosettes and the rattles. It was a magic feeling, for a 5-year-old as well, to experience that. It stuck in my memory. By the time I was 7, 8, then I knew what I was doing in terms of football. You get a little bit more savvy when you've got 7, 8. But as a 5-year-old, I just remember the crowd and the euphoria of winning it, and obviously Tottenham High Road as well. Tottenham High Road winning the cup. I think 66, Everton won the league. I think the year. I remember my mum saying Everton in her Greek accent. She couldn't believe Everton won the league. She goes, Everton. Because she always thought Spurs would win the league that season. But we had probably, 66, 67 was a little bit better because we finished 3rd. But 65, 66, we finished 8th. So we were dropping down a bit, weren't we? Like you said, Dermot.
And then we end for the last 2 seasons of the decade, 68, 69, we finished 6th, and then 69, 70, we finished 11th.
Yeah, that was a poor season. That was Jimmy Greaves' last season, I think.
Yeah.
Jimmy Greaves left to West Ham, and Martin Peters came the other way. So, you know,
Jimmy Greaves effectively retired. He effectively retired the day he left Spurs. Because his heart was never in it after that. It really wasn't. You know, it broke his heart to leave Spurs. It really did.
He ended up with Barney in the end.
He was only 29. He was the same age as Harry Kane is now when Jimmy Greaves left Spurs. You know?
Yeah.
And, okay, and it's ironic that Kane is
Yeah, we could have had him for 3 or 4 more years easily, couldn't we?
Yeah,
because
could have,
because he was such a good dribbler of the ball. That's what he relied on. His goals were dribbles, weren't they? They weren't a little tactic.
He was so quick after 5 yards. He could actually be standing beside the defender. He's gone before the defender even knew he was gone. He was so quick. He really on the pace, you know.
Turn of pace.
We've got Brad Matthews saying, I think Spurs only used 14 players in the 60-61 season.
Probably right.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
There was no substitute. There was no substitutes in those days. So, you know.
No, we've got Jimmy Roberts and Frank Soule scored.
Right.
Yeah,
Frank
they
Soule,
did against.
We'll go through how they got there. Hamlin scored for Chelsea. It was 2-0 to Spurs, and they scored late on. So it left a bit of a hairy last 5 minutes, but we held on.
We did. And
that's a name that doesn't get mentioned a lot, Frank Soule.
No,
he was a very good player.
Yeah, he was.
True.
Yeah.
And then we've got Brad Matthews saying, I was out in the garden playing Cowboys in Indians during the 67 Cup final. Fair play to you. Did you? Who were you? Were you the Cowboy or the Indian? Let us know.
I was a Cowboy.
Yeah.
The same as an Indian. Right. 61, 62. Could have done the double again, but we missed out. We're just a bit inconsistent in the league. But we had another trip to Wembley to talk about, and this was the 3rd, 4th, 5th up to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. So, do you want to take us through this, Philip?
Do you know you're after striking a chord here with me? I think I was at that 3-3 match.
Really?
I was only 5 or 6 at the time, but I remember we moved to Birmingham the year before that. And it was the only time I could get to see Spurs away was in Birmingham, you know, be Birmingham, West Brom, Aston Villa, that type of thing. So I have an awful suspicion I went to see that game. Yeah. We won that one. We eventually 4-2 in the replay. And then...
You were out of nappies, Phillip.
Just about. Yeah, and then, you know, I don't know what Birmingham were like in those days. They're probably reasonable enough. Plymouth Argyle, I think, were a lower league team. I don't remember... You know, beat them 5-1 away, so that must have been fairly okay. West Bromwich Albion, that could have been another one that could have been that. But that's another ground they used to go to quite a lot. To 4-2 in February, and that would have been in the high. That was that the winter, the real snow? No, it was 1963 when the real winter came down. Remember, the snow was 14 foot deep for about 3 months. So it couldn't have been then because all the matches in January '63 were cancelled. So this must have been the season before. But can you imagine playing on a bone-hammer pitch, clogs for boots, and a ball that got heavier as the match went on? Wasn't bear thinking about it, you know?
I know. Because it used to pick up the wetness in the grass if it had been raining, or just the mud.
That's right. But at least we held on to the cup anyway. So you take the other half, Elly, now.
And also, the old balls were hard leather and they had that stitching. If that stitching hit you on the head, it'd cut your head open.
Maybe an imprint on
it. Yeah.
But then, Elly, we played the mighty Plymouth Argyle.
Wow.
I mean, what a team they were. I mean, they were the team of the year. I mean,
they're good for fish and chips. Plymouth.
That's true.
I've got a cousin who's got a restaurant up there, or down there, in it's in the West Country, isn't it, Plymouth?
Yeah, it is,
Yeah, on the 27th of January 1962. I still wasn't born. I wasn't even in nappies.
And then, Elly, we got to West Bromwich Albion, and
West Bromwich Albion, we beat them 4-2. at Tottenham Hotspur on the 17th of February 1962. So then after that is the quarterfinals, I believe.
Yeah, I'm bringing that up now. It should be coming in now, hopefully, in a minute. Sorry.
There
I
we
can
go.
only bring so much into the StreamYard.
I just like looking at the FA Cup anyway. It's a beautiful cup.
Good.
Such a beautiful cup.
Why isn't
And it
this
looks
coming up?
especially nice when Steve Perriman picked it up in the night time.
Yeah.
Beautiful silver cup in the
It
night
is.
time shining.
And it hasn't changed, has it?
No.
Over the years.
It's the same one.
Yeah, and this is then the sixth round, the semi-finals. We beat the mighty Man United at Hillsborough, where I think we won our 81. We played Wolves there in the first game, I think, in 81 at Hillsborough.
Yeah.
Before the replay.
Yeah. And Burnley were the team of the moment, weren't they? In those years.
Yeah.
They were a very, very good side.
They were a tough northern team, took no prisoners.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Jimmy Greaves again was score on his cup final debut at Wembley and scored the first goal for Spurs as well. So,
Jimmy Greaves scored on his debut for every club he played for.
Yeah, that is so true.
Yeah.
That is so
Even
true.
West Ham.
Barnet.
And Barnet, yeah.
Then Barnet, yeah. Because my brother played against one of my brothers played against Jimmy Greaves. I was trying to find out from him. They were called something Rangers. They were called, but I can't remember the first name. But they played against Jimmy Greaves, so that's my brother's claim to fame.
Yeah, I know.
But Phillip and Elly, we qualified for the Champions League, or then the European Cup.
Yeah.
And I let Phillip talk about the first leg because I know Philip's got a story here about the team.
This was the game, the first ever European match in very hostile crowd in the industrial part of Poland. And I think after about 60 minutes, we were 4-0 down and looked like a European adventure was going to be very, very short. But then they pulled back 2 goals late on in the game. And it was at that game that apparently there was one very bad tackle by, I think, Dave Mackay. The Polish guys thought it was a bad tackle of one of their players. And the word went out then to anybody that wasn't at the match, but the Polish press the next door, Spurs were animals. That's the way that they described us, you know. But before the end of the match, Bobby Smith is alleged to have gone up to the goalkeeper, who spoke no English, right? He put his finger on your man's nose and he says, London, you'll get yours in London. Right? Second leg comes around a week later. What does Bobby Smith do? Clatters the goalkeeper into the back of the net. The goalkeeper loses completely, and you saw the score 8-1. So that was and apparently the atmosphere at the lane that night was supposed to be. Spurs fans got wind of this animal thing, you know, and really let the Poles have it. They were literally the game I'd nearly compare it to was a 3-0 against Arsenal last season. Gornik was scared to come out because of the noise of the crowd.
And I think if I'm right, it was the first time ever it was Glory, Glory, Hallelujah was actually sung at White Hart Lane.
Quite right.
Yeah.
That was the first of the Glory, Glory nights at White Hart Lane, and also set the trend for playing in all white.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah.
And then Elly in the second round, we went. Well, I mean, this team we've got a history against. To be fair, we played them in UEFA Cup finals. We've played them Glenn Hoddle. I think one game in the 80s. Totally turned Cruyff inside out, outside in. But it all started all the way back in November '61 against Feyenoord, and it looked a quite easy cup 2-leg game, didn't it? By the scores of that.
Yeah, I mean, we won the away leg 3-1. And then the second leg we drew 1-1, so we went through 4-2 on aggregate. And Feyenoord were a very, very good side. You know, my dad used to talk about Feyenoord to me as well when I was a little older, because obviously I wasn't born yet. But that is my birthday month, November. But the following year I came into the world. But what I wanted to do is put a disclaimer out for any Polish out there. Just to apologise to any Polish, we won't do it again. we might do it again if we get any Polish teams in the future.
It's when we get to the 80s. Me and Elly might start talking about the AA, so we are going to put disclaimers out for that.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. And then in the quarterfinals, Phillip, we played a team from Prague, a Yugoslavian team, which is now, I think, Croatia.
No, the Duke of Prague was from Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovakia as it was then.
Oh, the old Czechoslovakia as they were.
But I mean,
they were the Czech army team. They were the team of the Czechoslovakian army.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Just a bit of breaking news.
England has been relegated.
Just that will probably cheer me, Phillip. Elly probably go into a state another week's worth of mourning now.
We have a minute of silence.
No.
Can they?
That's bad now, losing to Italy again.
So England have
and Hungary beat Germany, by the way. Hungary beat Germany away. 1-0.
It's going to be under pressure now after that result.
Yeah, he will. And then, I mean, you look at the attendance, guys, 55,000. I mean,
there
were big crowds, Phillip, them days, weren't they? Big
crowds. Yeah, they were just amazing nights. I mean, I remember BBC used to show maybe highlights, 15, 20 minute highlights with grainy old black and white footage, but the crowd atmosphere was amazing at those games.
Yeah. I mean, Carl Simpson, Elly, saying Southgate needs to go. England played Nuno ball. So crap. Look. I'm actually going to be honest with you here. There's a part of me that is laughing my head off, and there's about 1% of me feeling sorry for you, but the 95% of me is finding it really funny. So I'm sorry. Sorry, Carl. Look, it's good banter.
They're their own enemies, England, because they just don't take any chances, and they're not playing Grealish from the start, which is terrible because he's on form. He's playing whenever he plays for England.
Don't get me starting on that traitor. Just do not get me starting on that. He's a traitor. Him and Declan.
The thing is, we could have had him. We could have signed him, but Manchester City have got him now, aren't they? And apparently, I heard today Manchester City are after Bastoni as well.
Oh, God.
I read it today.
Brad Matthews says Mum and Dad were at the Dougla game. Apparently it was really cold.
Yeah, it would have been.
Yeah, I hate cold. I hate the cold. When you go football and it's cold, it's not nice.
Says only joking. And then we've got Bob Spur TV and big up Bob Spur says, England and the Spurs of international football.
That's an insult to Spurs, that.
Probably, yes.
Quite close. It's a close call. Only we win our matches and they don't. We win ugly and they lose ugly.
But anyway, we've reached the semi-final, guys. We're into our first ever European semi-final where we played the mighty Benfica. And Phillip, Benfica had some really good players back then, didn't they? They had
Sabio was probably the best striker Europe's produced in a long time in the 60s now. He was in Jimmy Greaves of Portugal. He was brilliant. They absolutely buried us in the first leg there, 3-1. I think we're lucky to get away with 3-1. But the second leg is still one of the most infamous matches ever played at White Hart Lane. Spurs had a perfectly good goal disallowed for offside, which was no way offside. They had a penalty claim denied. They hit the bar about 3 times, and we went out on a single goal, aggregate 4-3. But the referee that day, I think, had a police escort off the pitch because it was just one of the most disgraceful episodes of refereeing we've ever seen until Mike Dean came along.
Yeah. And then, who would we have played in the final if we got to the final?
Real Madrid, I think.
We would have played Real Madrid. Right.
I think. I'm not sure about that now.
Their horse, couldn't we? We could have nipped it in the bud by beating them in the final.
Yeah. I think there was an awful lot of dirty tactics by Benfica in the second leg. They tried everything to disrupt us,
Yeah.
And So it was pretty because I mean, imagine getting into the European Cup final in your first season, and it would be some achievement.
It
Do you know
is,
what? I was just thinking of the Brighton game at home in the league. They did the same. All the B teams, Blackburn, Brighton, and Benfica.
Right.
We shouldn't play any B teams, shouldn't we?
No, that's true.
and so because we won the FA Cup in '62, we get qualified for the Cup Winners' Cup.
Yeah.
In '63, which I cannot find the run, which we did win. Do you want to talk a bit about that season, Philip, and the run to that final?
That was kind of a transition season. Some of the double winning team were sort of falling by the wayside at that stage. The replacements were coming in. But we did extremely well to get to the final. And this was probably the match that's known as Danny Blanchflower's final. Because apparently Bill Nicholson, before the game, in the team talk, painted up Atletico Madrid to be as if they were the greatest teams ever to play football, period. And he scared the daylights out of the players. So Danny Blanchflower waited until Bill had gone to bed, or when he got all the team together, and apparently he gave the most incredibly rousing team talk in the history of anything. And those boys went out on the pitch. They would have eaten raw meat, which they nearly did, and we buried Atletico Madrid 5-1. So that was Blanchflower's final. He was absolutely magnificent. He rallied the team and got us to win it. And that was also the we went up to Rangers and beat them both home and away. But I believe I saw footage recently of the away leg, and Jesus was very hostile. It really was hostile. Yeah. But I think Jimmy Greaves the first couple of minutes to put the 6-2 up, and at that stage it was never going to be any other winner but Spurs, you know. It was an amazing achievement to become the first British team to win a European trophy. Like people that say, "Oh, Celtic were the first to win the European Cup." It took them 4 years more to do it. You know, we did it. In fact, I think I might be wrong here, but did West Ham not win a similar trophy in '65 or '66?
They did, yeah.
I think it was called the Bears Cup, wasn't it? Or was it called the Bears Cup?
No, there was
lasted up until the '80s. Then they made the whole lot the UEFA Cup. Then, you know.
Yeah,
but that was the run there, Elly. We beat Rangers in the first leg. We went away to Bratislava, and then we played some team that I don't think even exists now.
OFK Brad.
And then we beat Atletico Madrid in the final. Greavesy with 2.
Google it.
Dyson. It was always called the Dyson final.
Yeah,
that's what it's called.
2 great goals.
Yeah.
So you know.
And Greaves scored 2, and White.
Yeah. And John White.
Poor man. Yeah.
It was. And look, what gets me is John White then was tragically killed, I think, a couple of years after that.
Yeah, 1964.
Yeah.
He was playing golf and he sheltered under a tree during a lightning storm. Yeah.
They still exist. They still exist at OFK Beograd. They still exist.
Oh, Hungarian. I thought they were Serbian or something like that. Yeah. We would have won that semi-final with VAR. We would have definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Brad Matters put not like in VAR, but we would have won that semi-final with VAR. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We would have.
Then guys will go all the way. We didn't do too well in rally. Now, if people are asking about the League Cup started in '60-61. Yeah. But it wasn't, you didn't have to go into it. You didn't have to play for it if you didn't want it. So we first went into the League Cup in 1966-67. And we played one game in it. And I'll find it here. I think it's, hopefully this is the right one. We lost anyway in the first round, to be fair. Which is, and we didn't play in it again. And I think this was there we go. We played in it in '66.
West Ham.
And we lost away to West Ham. Then the next time we played in the League Cup was '68. The 68-69 season. Now, I know we've got the 67 Cup final, but this thing has a bit of a special semi-final to us Spurs fans. So, look, we beat Villa away. We beat we beat Exeter City away, we beat Peterborough at home. And then the semi-finals, well, it's just one of them semi-finals that will live long in
We
the
beat
memory.
Exeter at home, not away.
Huh?
6-3. Is that right? We beat Exeter at home 6-3.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we actually got Arsenal in the semi-final, and our first ever proper run in the
God.
in this 68 League Cup. Now, I mean, that was before the double side of the Arsenal side, Phillip, back in 71.
Yeah.
I mean, we won the FA Cup the year before. The League Cup is something very special with Bill Nick, wasn't it? Because he won it twice as a manager.
Won it twice, yeah. Well, imagine losing the semi-final to Arsenal. That must have been a killer.
Yeah.
I know.
And then in the where is it? Then in the second semi-final, the second leg. Look, it's just one of them seasons. Yeah. We drew 1-1 in the second leg at the Lane.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
Well,
They beat us 2-1 on aggregate.
Brad Matthews says we didn't enter the League Cup because we could win other things. Yeah.
Excuse me, one sec.
And Arsenal did lose to Swindon in that final. And I think it was the same year the Horse of the Year show was used at Wembley as well that year, if I remember rightly.
Okay.
Probably if people in the chat can let me know if I'm wrong, just let me know. But I think, Elly, what was so special about the 60 size? I mean, I've got a couple of questions here. And I'll bring one to you now. I mean, how this one? Right, did you ever get stories told by your family member or family friend about any favourite players in that 60-61 double winning side? And what did they tell you?
I mean, my brothers and my dad, because my brothers were old enough, and they absolutely adored Dave Mackay, and they absolutely adored Jimmy Greaves. They were the two best players that they just raved about for different reasons. So Dave Mackay was fabulous, and he was like Bill Nicholson even put it in a nutshell. He said until Dave Mackay came to our club, we weren't a full proper club, that could challenge and win things. He made that big difference. We need that today as well, by the way. But having said that, like Jimmy Greaves was the one they raved about in a different way, but in the more his magic, the goals that he scored. He'd take the ball from the halfway line or even from his own goalie and dribble through the whole of the team and score a goal, and it was so exciting to watch our football because it was the passing, the precision pass on those mud pitches as well. So you had to weight the pass really well. And I remember my dad saying how fantastic the movement off the ball was, and the fabulous goals we scored. We scored 115 goals that season. I think that's still a record, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah,
I think it's still and I mean, when I was 6 to 7 years old, I could understand a lot more, but I lived in a mad Spurs household, so it was crazy anyway. But they loved every single player: Danny Blanchflower, Terry Dyson, Les Allen. They loved them all. John White, they were all fabulous players in their own right. Cliff White bombing down the wing, and I just wish I was, say, 15, 16, 17. And then I would have even cherished it even more. But I still watch it today. I watch those teams today so that I can relive what my family went through because they were all old enough, so that I could get that special feeling in your heart and be proud of your club. What the things we achieved, we were pioneers. 64 years the double wasn't done. That's how hard it was to do. 64 years, and we achieved it. So it's something to marvel at, and I just hope we can bring those days back with Conte now. So, like, my children can cherish it as well.
Yeah. I mean, Brad Matthews put here, my dad always went on about Danny Blanchflower. I
Yeah,
mean, Danny Blanchflower, Phillip, he
Yeah,
was the backbone of that double side,
he
wasn't he? He
was. He
was the
was.
calmness.
He was
brilliant.
himself. Ed Mackay, absolutely. You know, they probably be classed now as kind of central midfielders. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah,
the Højbjergs and the Betancourts of the previous era. Yeah, I mean, Danny Blanchflower really should have taken over from Bill Nicholson when
yeah,
Bill wanted Blanchflower to take over,
Mm.
but some stupid
yeah.
minded the board went to appoint the next Gooner as manager. You know, it's just crazy. So
That
Danny
was
Blanchflower
successful,
didn't get
wasn't
it.
it?
And
Um,
Danny Blanchflower managed Chelsea. You know,
mm,
look at the irony of that. You know, he wins a double with Spurs
Oh,
and ends up in that mob. You know, because nobody at Spurs could have the cop on to bring him back and continue with the success he had as a player. Anyway, it's all done and
well,
dusted now. It's in the
it is
past.
now. Well,
yeah,
63, 64, we got back into the Cup Winners' Cup again. And Phillip and Elly, we
Yeah.
play. I mean, you get into Europe, you're hoping to get some big side in Europe. Juventus, Italian, Spanish, French
yeah.
side. Who do we get? Bloody Manchester
I
United.
know. I
Um,
know. At their height as well,
yeah,
when they were
Phillip,
starting to
They won the
crank
FA
it
Cup
up.
in '63. Yeah.
yeah, we
Oh
won the
yeah.
Yeah,
first leg 2-0. Everyone thought that's it. We're going to go through to the next round.
yeah,
We got a rude awakening at Old Trafford, didn't we? A little bit.
Big time.
yeah.
And that was
Who
Europe for
scored the
another
goals for
3
Man
years.
United that day?
Sorry, who
Who
did?
Um,
scored the goal? Who scored the goals for us that day in the home leg and the away
I
games? Who
don't know
scored the
that.
goals?
I don't
sorry,
know.
I
I'll have
get
to
you
put it
putting
up.
on. Sorry,
No,
Ellie.
I'll get it. I'll get it up now. I'll get it up now. No problem. Yeah, but
I mean,
it
Phillip,
doesn't
I mean,
really matter because we went out, didn't we?
yeah, but Phillip, I mean, the Cup Winners' Cup. I mean, it was a major competition. We were the first English side to win a European
Yeah.
trophy. It was. It's all. We've always had a special affection for this competition, haven't we? Like the UEFA Cup. I
Yeah.
mean, how special was it to win it? Do you think to be the first English side to win it? It was
It was,
something
it was,
special to do,
it was
wasn't
an
it?
amazing achievement because let's face it, European football was pretty much in its infancy at that stage. You know, like it was
Yeah.
kind of. I don't think there was even a organising body as such. You more that the two teams were drawn against each other and organised the matches themselves. There was no kind of a Tuesday or Wednesday thing about it. They organised it when they could fit it into their schedule. It's all
Mm.
changed now. But yeah, I mean, going out of that Cup Winners' Cup so relatively early in the next season from after winning it was a big disappointment, especially as it'd be another 3 or 4 years before we get back into Europe. You know, after by
It,
winning the Cup in '67, and that
yeah.
didn't last too long either.
No, well, I actually have got the runs into that actually,
Yeah,
so
I've got.
we will go
I
into
remember
that.
one of those matches very well. Now I'll come to it later on.
Yeah. Well, look, we're actually talking about 67. We started in the round 3 against Millwall. We drew
Yeah.
0-0 away at the Den, and we only beat them 1-0 in the replay, Phillip.
Yeah.
And then we got Portsmouth at home in round 4. We beat them. I mean, it shows we weren't really blowing sides away, were we?
No,
fair.
no. This was the double side Mark II at this stage.
Yeah.
You know, this was the changed team. A lot of replacements in for the double guys. Still a few of them left now. Pat Jennings was now the goalkeeper. We had Mike England in Cyril Knowles and Joe Kinnear, Phil Beale,
Yeah, I love those players.
Jimmy Greaves, Frank Saul, Jimmy Robertson, Dave Mackay was still there. That was his last season with Spurs,
Yeah,
and you know it was a Frank Saul of course score. I'm not sure Alan Gazine. I don't think was there. Had he come at that stage? I don't think so.
Yeah.
But
I think he did.
maybe he did. Now it was a good team. It wasn't as good as a double winning team,
No.
but after 3 or 4 years out in the wilderness, if you like, rebuilding the side, it was the most welcome win. And the fact that we beat Chelsea in the final made it twice as sweet.
Yeah.
yeah,
Elly, you were born around this time. You remember the 67
yeah,
side.
yeah. I was 5 years old, so yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what is your memories of that season?
I just remember going to a few games. The first game I went to was Nottingham Forest, and we drew 1-1. I remember that. Just little snippets here and there, but what I remember most was down Tottenham High Road when we brought the cup.
Mm.
For a little kid, you know, and I was with all my brothers, 7 of them, and it was just euphoria. And my dad had me on his shoulders again, and I remember my brother Scully climbing up the tree to get a better view, and we was thinking he's going to fall down because he was such a scallywag. He had a good name, Scully, and he was a scallywag.
Yeah.
And my dad shouting at him, and he was just worried that his son's going to kill himself by falling down. But I just remember it's just like amazing atmosphere, you know, for a little kid, and all the flags and the rosettes, and the rosettes were beautiful as well. They were really, some of them like proper silk rosettes with nice flowers on them as well, and the rattles, the noise of the rattle, you couldn't get it out of your head. It was amazing. It's just, I just wish I was a little bit older, then I would have remembered a little bit more. But what I do remember is that, you know, and I just remember all the colour, the blue and white, and the team bus coming along. It's fantastic. Just, it will stick in my memory for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
It's so special.
I mean, there we go, Philip. In round 5, we beat Bristol City at home, and then we drew with the mighty Birmingham City. I mean, I don't know if you're probably at that game, I would say.
It could have been, yeah. It could have well have been the Birmingham City one, yeah. Probably.
And then we didn't have put them away in the replay 6-0.
We did, yeah. I remember it was a very tight semi-final that year against Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
And they were a good team at that stage, and it was a very tight game. And I think we came through 2-1. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I'm just going to get it up now for you. If hang on, it is working. Sorry, it's the first time I've used all these slides, so it's just slightly.
You're doing a grand job, Dermot. You're doing a grand job.
Yeah, we did. We just beat them 2-1. We very tight. And then, of course, we get the All-London final.
First one ever. First ever
London against a certain London side against Chelsea. Elly was at that game, so no wonder they won it.
Oh, my God, yeah.
And there we go. That was the final 2-1. Yeah.
That's right. He was a good player.
He's a very good player.
Yeah. Now, the referee, I thought that said Daigle to begin with.
No, Ken Dagnall. I remember he was probably the best referee around at that stage. I remember him. He was good, you know.
But there was a lot of link between Chelsea and Tottenham, Philip, and I think you know what it is. I think Chelsea know what it. Elly knows what it is. So there's a question. Right. What is the link between Tottenham and Chelsea in the 60s? There's 2 players that played for Chelsea first and then came to Tottenham. Who were they?
Yeah.
One should be easy. The other one, I will give you a clue if you're stuck. He went on to manage in France, in Spain. There's your clue.
Very, very subtle clue that then.
Yeah. So we got there. We won the FA Cup again, 3rd FA Cup in the 60s. You know, Bill Nick's getting used. We're unbeaten at Wembley. We haven't lost there. And then we get back into Europe again, which is absolutely brilliant for us, absolutely brilliant for the fans. Elly gets a taste of European football the first time at White. And so
there's magical nights. Magical nights. There's something special about playing in Europe at White Hart Lane. It's totally different, but magic, the atmospheres.
Now, Philip, you said you remember. Is this the games you remember?
No. Have you got a match against Olympic Lyonnais coming up next?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
That's the one.
Hijack Split. We played them in the 91-92 Cup Winners' Cup.
That's right.
Croatian.
Yeah.
This is the question.
Team, the Yugoslavian team at that stage.
Yugoslavia.
This is for you two now, not for the chat, for you two. Who scored the winning goal for Tottenham in that game, in the away game?
1967.
No, in 92. The 91-92
Oh, 92.
And who was the Spurs manager for an extra point?
What, in 1992, we beat Hadrick Split?
Yeah,
Peter Shreves, was it?
yeah, that's right. You got 1 point
Peter
there. For
Shreves. So the
Peter
goal
Shreves
scorer,
scored
1992.
Oh,
He was
God.
one of the goal scorers. I think we won 2-0. But I know he scored one of the goals.
Trying to figure out who that could be now.
1992. Right, 1992.
I'll give you a clue. There's a link between Chelsea.
Maybe Gaffer?
No, there was a link between Chelsea as well with this player.
Oh.
He went on to play for Rangers after he left us. That should be
Bo?
No.
Richard Goff. No.
No.
Who played for Rangers?
Rangers. Oh, Gaza.
No, Gaza was
That's
injured.
what I said. I said that already.
Yeah. Right, I'll put it into the chat. Right, we'll continue on. I'll put it in the chat. I'll give you time to think about it. Put it to the chat. I'm
Just
sure
thinking of the prices were.
Yeah. He started at Chelsea. He came to us. I don't know. He didn't come for us via Chelsea.
Oh.
He started his career at Chelsea. He was bought at the start of the 91-92 season.
Oh.
Spent
I know.
I know. Gordon Jury.
I know it is.
Exactly.
Gordon Jury, yeah. You nicked it off my tongue. Gordon Jury. I was just about to say it because I was just thinking he's like he was sort of blondish, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
Proper blonde. Yeah.
And Andrew Gregory has got it spot on. Terry Venables and Jimmy Greaves. So they're both.
Yeah, Terry Venables played for Chelsea.
Yeah, they both came through the Chelsea Academy, the Chelsea Academy, and went on. And he did manage Barcelona, won the European Cup, I think, or the UEFA Cup. I can't remember what he won Barcelona.
That was a good question.
Won La Liga, and then he came back to us and after the AA's biggest membership person apparently was told that his custard creams was ready to pick up at the bottom of at the gates of White Hart Lane.
You sure they got orphans?
That's as far as we're going with that.
Right.
And then Brad Matthews says 67, 68. This was the first season I actually was properly a Spurs supporter.
Yeah.
And then Andrew Gray, spot on.
Yeah, Gordon Jury.
Gordon Jury.
He was a decent player, that Gordon Jury. He was pretty good. He put himself about.
And then Phillip, go on. This is
that was a hard one to take. I mean, we lost the first leg away 1-0, and the second leg we battered them. Absolutely battered them. And they scored a goal right at the end to make it 4-3, and the away goals counted. So that was us dumped out of Europe very early on, second round. I only remember that game. I think it was on. It might have been on live on TV, but there's extended highlights of it, and it was so hard to take, And we really shot ourselves in the foot, letting 3 goals in both matches we played at home, letting 3 goals in. So you can see things were not quite right in the defensive department in those days.
Has anything really changed, Phillip?
True.
I think that was the day my dad smashed some plates on the floor because we'd lost.
I wouldn't blame him.
I remember that because he was a chef, my dad, and he got very angry when Spurs lost, especially in the last seconds.
Sure, I thought smashing plates came naturally to Greek
yeah, definitely. It's part of our tradition.
Yeah, that's right.
So really, that's the end of the 60s bit. I've got a few other stats to bring up, and then we're going to go into a bit of fun at the end, where we are going to talk about news, the music, everything about the 60s. Just have a bit of fun with you. It's a Friday night, so we thought at the end we've took you through the 60s history. Then we're going to have a bit of fun for you at the end, and Philip's done some good stuff for us. Elly will be able to tell us what it's like being a kid in the 60s. I have no idea. I wasn't even thought of. So
no, you weren't told.
But I've always said if I could go back in time, I'd love to go back to the 60s. If I could go back in time. We've got here just a little tribute. to our greatest manager, and I think he deserves a little bit of praise because I think
Yes.
as a manager we have now, I think we have the best manager since Bill Nicholson,
Yeah.
and a chance for us to be as successful as the 60-61 side were.
Mm.
So this was Bill Nick's overall league and cup record. I mean,
Fabulous.
as a manager, Philip, as on the manager side of it, that's some record, isn't it?
It is. You know
Yeah.
what surprises me? The amount of goals against. We let in a few goals in our
No.
day. You know.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Okay. What's that win percentage? His win percentage is about 47% or so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
A lot of draws, last 2-2-8. Yeah, that's 16 divided by 10. That's an average of about 14 defeats a season, isn't it? 16 by about 16 a season. So yeah, like I think the record is probably clouded a little bit by the lack of success in those interim years, 63 to 67 and 67 to 70. You know, we didn't do a lot.
Yeah.
The majority of the good stats there were done in the 61, 62, 60, 61, 62, 63, and 67 seasons. So we
Yeah.
finished third that season. We won the FA Cup against Chelsea, which was a good finish, you know. So, but Bill was a legend. I mean, he was a PT instructor in the army.
he was.
during the war or after the war, and was a member of the double winning side, the league winning title in '51. And was appointed very much as an in-house promotion when he got the job in '58. I think it was kind of, they played safe and they appointed someone that they knew, and thank God they did, because I mean, together with Bill Shankly and Alan and Matt Busby, they were the three best managers probably ever in the history of the English league. Really, you know, and Conte is going to surpass that now. But
he was Jimmy Anderson's assistant
Right
manager.
hand man, yeah, that's right.
Coach.
Yeah.
Jimmy Anderson retired due to ill health. I think he had pneumonia or
That's
some
right.
disease.
Yeah.
So he took over. Jimmy Anderson took over from Arthur Rowe back in the middle of the 50s.
Yeah.
And then Bill Nick took over. So it was all done within in-house, because Jimmy Anderson was Arthur Rowe's assistant manager at first and coach, and everything was done within in-house at Tottenham, which if they had listened to Bill Nick, I don't think we would have got relegated. But we wouldn't have had Ozzy or Ricky. We wouldn't have Keith Birkinshaw come in to take us on the 18 run we had. So maybe
things happen for a reason, don't they? Yeah. And remember, Bill Nicholson played for us as well. He played in the 1950-51 push and run side.
Yeah,
so he already had a fantastic pedigree, you know, and how to play the right way.
Who was the other one, Elly?
Who
was the other player that went on, that played in that 50-51
Oh,
team?
yeah, I know.
Very successful.
Alf Ramsey.
They could do with him. They could do with him as England manager now. I think.
And Eddie Bailey as well.
Spurs won the World Cup, didn't we? Because we provided them with the manager.
And then, guys, this was if you split the records up, this was his league record, and this was Bill Nick's Cup and European Cup record. European
record's very good, isn't it? 102 wins.
Yeah.
He's undefeated in 134 matches out of 165. That's incredible.
Fantastic. Incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, that cup and European record for me is, I don't think even Conte could beat that.
No. And you know, I'm just thinking here, you know, this particular day, we've got Bill Nicholson lived in Tottenham all his life. You know, what would he think now of the facilities his club has? You know, he must be so proud of everything that we've got at the moment: the stadium, the training ground. You know, it's compared to this facilities he would have had to deal with, which would have been fairly primitive compared to the players have now.
Yeah.
But
they used to have to share a bath, didn't they, Phillip? They used to have to jump in the bath and share the bath. There's no
Right.
separate showers.
I watched Mickey when Mickey Hazard was on Dave Harris's The Irish Hotspur. Please, everyone, go over and hit a like and subscription on The Irish Hotspur and the Flat Cup and
Yeah.
your Flat Europe Talk as well
Support
for
Dave
Dave
in
and
the
Jack.
chat.
Absolutely brilliant channels. He said about, I think Mickey Hazard was saying he was in the bath with, I think Jimmy Neighbour, Ralph Coates, and somebody else. I can't remember the full story, but it was a very rude story. But I've never laughed as much in my life.
Yes.
Look, that's the end of the Spurs in the 60s. That part of the show. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was. I hope
brilliant.
it was. I hope
Very
you
good.
enjoyed going down memory lane. And as I
Fantastic.
said, the slides will improve. We will get better slides. It will be done better, but I enjoy putting that slide
You've done
section
very
together.
well, Don.
Well done, Nick. Great
You've done
job.
very
Well
well.
done.
I had
Yeah,
so much
it's
fun
a
doing
grand
that
job.
because I love Spurs history, and to go back and watch what we were like, it was just unreal. But Philip, go on.
Yeah.
Now let's. Brad Matthews says Bill Nicholson the
Yeah.
greatest. Exactly.
Great.
Go on.
Yeah.
The 60s was big news decade. A lot happened in the 60s. So,
Yeah.
Philip, we're going to start with our mighty country, Ireland. I know
Right.
one thing happened in the 60s. The IRA stopped their border campaign because people weren't supporting it. That's the bit I know.
Yeah.
But do you want to tell us what else happened in
Well,
our lovely country?
Ireland in the start of the 60s, Ireland was very, very, I would say quite a backward country in a lot of ways. The Catholic Church dominated what you could do and what you couldn't do, mostly what you couldn't do. And the politicians fell in line with the church. I mean, the church was king. In 1960, there was a book called The Country Girls, written by Edna O'Brien, one of the best works of fiction ever written by an Irish author. It was banned here for about 30 years, because it offended. It was extramarital sex, stuff like that, So
Yeah.
there was a program on Irish TV which came on. Irish TV only started in 1961. And on RTE, and they decided to give a program to a young lad called Gay Byrne, and it was the Late Show, and it hit subjects that had never ever been talked about on TV in Ireland. It shocked a lot of people. They reckoned there was no sex in Ireland until the Late Show came along, and it's kind of dragged us screaming into the 20th century.
Can I add to that, Philip? That show is still running to this.
It's still running. It's the second longest running TV show. Okay, it's a numerous presenters, but when it started in the 60s, it was really, really groundbreaking. It really was. And there wouldn't have been that many TVs in the country at that stage. What people used to do was into the neighbour's house that had a TV. So you had 20 people in the house watching the Late Show every Friday night or Saturday night, as it was then. But Ireland started to come alive in 1963 when John F. Kennedy visited. Now, he was the first American president of Irish descent, and he was from Wexford, same as yourself, Dermot.
Yeah, that's true.
And he came in June 1963. Unfortunately, he was assassinated 4 months later or 5 months later in Dallas, which is a very sad thing.
Can I just state something, Philip? It had nothing to do with Ireland. It has nothing to do with us.
There wasn't you. The Beatles came to Dublin in November 1963, and they played in a cinema called the Adelphi, and the scenes outside that theatre have yet to be replicated. It was like Westlife, Boys Own, multiplied by 10. The girls of the repressed ladies of Ireland let it rip that night, I'll tell you. And the priest, there were sermons on the altar for the weeks afterwards about the sins of rock music and pop music, and go back to your good old Irish country music and traditional music, because that's good for the soul, not rock and roll. So it was hilarious. It was. But one thing that we did have, we had the trouble brewing in the north. Like you say, the IRA stopped their border campaign, but it soon started up again near the end of the 60s with horrific consequences for everybody, really, And I'm just trying to see if there's something else here.
Dev
I,
Lemass was the
Dev-
I
teacher.
remember
Was,
Gay Bird. I remember Gay Bird, by the way. I just looked
Oh,
him
yeah,
up.
Gay
I
Bird.
remember that.
Gay
Yeah,
was
he
a lot.
died in 2019. 85
Yeah,
years old, though.
yeah.
Yeah, he was a good presenter, he was.
Met him a few times. It was
Yeah,
when I was up in the west of Ireland. He used to be there. He had a summer house there, a holiday home, and he was very friendly. You
yeah.
could meet him in the pub. You know, he was just a great lad. But what was I going to say there? I've got off my thought here. Oh yeah, the troubles. Probably. Well, I won't say split the country in two, but an awful lot of people died. 3,000 or more people died in the troubles. Well, what for, really? You know, I don't know what they were fighting for.
yeah.
But
Philip, can I just add on that? Look, at the late 60s, we had the trouble started up again, and I think you remember we had what was his name? He was Taoiseach. He was before
Jack Lynch.
Jack Lynch was Taoiseach. I think he'd just taken over.
Yeah.
And I think he went to RTE to do a live broadcast to the nation about the troubles.
He did,
And
yeah.
would we send the army up there? Wouldn't we? Would there be field hospitals and everything? And it was around that time that a certain gentleman called Charlie High, which now me and Philip are laughing because he is the biggest crook you're ever likely to meet as a politician. I mean,
No,
man,
Donald Trump's got that.
no, this man, right, Charlie Height, this is a true story. He bought £15,000 shirts from France with taxpayers' money, spent drank at the best restaurants, all on the taxpayer, by the way. So poor old, the likes of my dad and you, Philip, and they were paying for his lifestyle.
Yeah.
He got sacked for gun running. Him and 3 other people.
That's right. Yeah, they were found not guilty eventually, but they was guilty. They was guilty as hell. And Charlie Haughey fought his way back. But the Chauvet shirts thing you mentioned there, that was hilarious. He went on TV one night, said everybody would have to pull your horns in and cut back your spending and live on less money and this, that, and the other. Well, next day he took a delivery of these 1,500 quid shirts, you know. He was else now. But anyway, but no, Ireland. I mean, Ireland in the '60s really was, the church was a dominant force. There was no contraception allowed. There was no divorce. There was if you're misfortunate to get pregnant and you weren't married, you were either put into what's called a Magdalene laundry, which was somewhere you were kept out of sight for 9 months until the baby was born. Then the baby be adopted or sold on by the church to somebody who's willing to pay for it. And that scandal is still going on. There's still an awful lot of repercussions about that at the moment. So Holy Ireland was quite corrupt at the time, and the corruption spread a lot from the Catholic Church.
Yeah, it did. I mean, I was part of that myself. My mother had me unmarried in the late 70s. Yeah, and it was still going on then.
It's still going on. Yeah. It was terrible.
It's terrible. Well,
anyway, it's a very potted history of the 60s, but the 70s gets more interesting. So bet on the next one. You know?
It does actually. I think I prefer the 70s and the 80s. Irish politics in the 80s.
The one thing that the country loved during the 60s was music, and the show bands. There used to be show bands going up and down the country, hundreds of them, and they play from 9 o'clock at night till 2 o'clock in the morning, and they in the marquee, which is basically a tent, and there'd be no drink allowed. You buy a mineral and a bag of crisps. That was the chat up line in those days, and they lasted until about the 70s, and then they disappeared. But they were great old days, you know.
I mean, you had you had loads of people, but the 70s is fun. The 80s, politics-wise, in the 80s, it gets mad. Late 70s to the middle of the 80s, it is just like Elly. It will blow your mind. It really will. But we're going to go through the 60s around the world, so I'm going to put them up. You can read them out and tell the people what you remember, and we can have a chat about anything you want to. So here's the first one for you, Elly.
Yeah.
60 Democrat president.
Back to bite them.
Yeah, I was still not born, but I remember John F. Kennedy because obviously he was assassinated, and he'd married the Greek lady. Well, the lady who was married to a Greek, Aristotle's wife. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. So, yeah, it was just one of those periods where a lot of presidents were getting shot at as well, and a lot of unrest in the world. But you know, there was a lot of good as well. There was a lot of bad, but there was a lot of good, especially the music scene and the fashion. And I just remember my mum.
Talk about music. This all the top 10 hits from the first biggest hits of the 60s. Do you want to talk us through them?
Yeah, like coming down the bottom. Well, obviously the Beatles dominated the 60s, didn't they? And Tom Jones with his hips and his swaying, and then Engelbert Humperdinck, Sugar Sugar, the Archies. That was a famous hit that ended the 60s. I remember my mum. She loved Helen Shapiro and Nancy Sinatra. And obviously Frank Sinatra as well, the Rat Pack. She liked all that sort of scene. And my dad was more into a lot of sort of soul music and the black artists of America. Yeah, but my mum, she absolutely adored, and she used to sing it to us as kids. Yeah, but the music scene then was fabulous. When you had I think Lulu came in the mid-60s to late 60s. She was belting them out, and then you had Cilla Black, who was fabulous. You know, there's so many good artists of that era. Obviously, Elvis Presley as well. Elvis was the king, wasn't he, of rock and roll? And Frank
as well. You are
all that's coming through now. By the time I was a kid, they were still around because they were still playing that music when I was around. You know, when I was a teenager, they were still playing these old hits because they had longevity into the 70s, way into the 70s. The 60s music was getting played. Yeah.
Yeah, still
I
is.
love that thing.
Yeah.
And the fashion that went with it, boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in 61, we've got the Bay of Pigs invasion is unsuccessful. US-backed operation to overthrow Castro in Cuba. Of course, in 62, the year we won the FA Cup, the Cuban Missile Crisis has the world on edge for another world war. I think we're sort of around now. Of course, then 63, as Elly had already said, that JFK got assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald. Look, from my own point of view, I to this day, I think it was an inside job. I think it was the FBI or the mafia. I don't think he did it, but
they're trying to prove that, aren't they? At the moment, there's loads of documentaries coming out, you know, showing different angles and how it couldn't have been Lee Harvey Oswald who fired the fatal shot. Yeah.
Yeah, couldn't forget the Rolling Stones, great band.
The Rolling Stones, yeah, brilliant. My mum absolutely adored Mick Jagger as well. She thought he was sex on legs.
Still is.
My mum was a bit like me, actually. I followed in my mum's footsteps.
My
dad was away a lot.
Yeah, that's true. We won't go there, Elly. It's a show for a late in 64, the United States President Lyndon B. Johnson signs the Civil Rights Act of 64 into law. 1965, Martin Luther King leads a peaceful civil rights march from Selma to Montgomery in Alabama. Of course, comes that famous speech, I have a dream, which all Spurs fans at the start of every season says the same thing. We have a dream. In 66, India in Indira
Gandhi. Yeah. I think was she the first woman prime minister ever?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
67, if anyone's American football fans, the Green Bay Packers and the Kansas City Chiefs play against each other for the first Super Bowl, which I never knew happened in '67, but it's something I learned.
I like what Peter M just said. Mick Jagger was always a bit of a prat. Not according to my mum.
I will get them up in a minute, actually. 68, civil rights leader Martin Luther King is assassinated in April by James Earl Ray. And apparently that assassination took place 5 miles away from Graceland, where Elvis lived. That's how close it was and where that was. And around that time, he was recording his 68 comeback special. All around that. And the song at the end that he sings at the end of that special was born out. They actually wrote it while they were recording it. It's born out of that from Martin Luther King being assassinated. So that's a little background to that song. And then in 1969, did we, didn't we, had we, would we, could we, did we land on the moon? Philip, I'm going to have to ask you, and I will put this into the chat. Did we land on the moon in '69?
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, technology wasn't that far advanced that they could have faked it. I know there's conspiracy theories that it was a fake, but no, we got to the moon. We did.
Do you remember it happening? What was
of them? Yeah, I remember. It was a huge thing. I mean, everybody was just waiting for it to happen, and these grainy black and white pictures coming back from the moon. It was incredible at the time, you know. It really was. But no, definitely would happen. It definitely happened.
You, Elly? I know you're
what? I was seven. But I do remember it well because my parents were really interested in it, and my dad was home at that time as well. Because obviously we'd made the final and he came back. So yeah, I just remember it. It was like a momentous occasion. You know, we were stuck in front of our black and white TVs watching it. And I remember all my family being intrigued by, you know, getting those pictures from the moon. It was like special times, you know, that mankind had achieved such a momentous feat to get to the moon. Yeah.
Look,
special.
We're going back again in 2 years' time.
Yeah.
And Brad Matthews, I Have a Dream. That's the name of the Elvis song. It is one of my favorites as well, Brad, I have to say. That song at the end that really summed up the 60s for me. It was about how the 60s was. It was coming into flower power, I think, around that time as well. And it was like, it is one of them. And Andrew Gregory says Bobby Kennedy was killed as well. I think Bobby Kennedy was killed in the early 70s, I think.
Yeah, he was killed about a week after Martin Luther King. It was the same time.
Oh, was it really?
It was around the same time, yeah. He was electioneering in Los Angeles. He was shot in a hotel in Los Angeles.
Was he shot by an Israeli, apparently some Israeli?
Sirhan was the name of the guy that shot him, but I don't know what, it sounds like an Arab. You know?
Yeah. And then Peter M., I watched how the lunar lander landed and then went to bed for a few hours. My mum then woke me up so that I could see Neil Armstrong go down on the ladder and step on the moon. I mean, I'm so jealous of you two. I am so jealous because I'm so excited we're going back to the moon because we're going to have our moon moment where you and then had it. So I'm so jealous. I mean, Philip, at school, were you doing anything at school for that? When Apollo, for the whole Apollo mission, how exciting was it? You had the space race.
It happened during the school holidays. I think it was July it happened, so schools were off. So we were watching TV 24/7, waiting for it to happen. You know. So
you had the space race between Russia and America. You had like Sputnik. You had then the first Gagani was the first Russian in space. You had then America then jumping ahead. Then you had Apollo 1. What happened there? Then you had the first humans around the moon. How exciting was that to be as a kid in the 60s? Have that was sort of like
it was brilliant. It was great. It was amazing. It really was. You know, it was earth shattering.
What was it like science everything you read in the comics, sort of like you're seeing it like on the telly.
Yeah.
A green, like
I think actually that.
You want that?
Amazing. Just
Yeah,
amazing. I remember I was in Florida and they were doing the test flights to go to the moon with it was the shuttle going up and then the rocket went after and then the shuttle's supposed to land onto the rocket or something like that. But anyway, to cut a long story short, the actual hotel we were staying in was on International Drive in Florida. And the whole hotel shook when it took off.
Yeah.
They said to us that don't be scared. It's not an earthquake. They're going to have a shuttle flight, and it's going to be very, very loud, and you're going to feel it. But when you actually experience it, it is like I've never experienced an earthquake, but if I think it was very much like an earthquake because the whole ground shook and the hotel shook. It was quite scary at times as well, but very noisy, very, very noisy.
Philip, I know your battery's about to go. Thank you for coming on tonight. Thank you for sharing your memories of the 60s with us. I've really enjoyed it.
That's been great.
Yeah, thank you.
Just before I go, can I comment on Peter M's comment about the various bands? The best band of the 60s was Creedence Clearwater Revival, period. Look them up.
I remember them. I remember them. My brother Paul was into them. Yeah, he loved them.
I've been a fan of theirs since day one, and I've seen them play a few times and whatever, Well, the offshoot bands, not the actual band, but anyway. Listen, I bet this battery's going to. I said no charger. It's out in the car. Been a pleasure, lads. Okay. It's been brilliant, and I'm looking forward to doing this.
Yeah, we're doing the 70s next Friday, but we will be on Sunday where we'll be building up Phillip to the Ireland-Armenia game and the England-Germany game as well for Elly. So, and hopefully Dave will be on that. But Elly, can you stay on for a few minutes with me?
Yeah.
Anyway, and we'll talk to you later.
Okay, see you later, Phillip. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that my brother Paul liked that band, Creedence, whatever they're called, but he also liked Mike Oldfield, Tubular Bell.
Yeah.
That was a fantastic. That was a pioneering album. That was.
Yeah, even made it to Only Fools and Horses, if I remember.
He did, and he was also into David Bowie because he thought his lyrics were brilliant.
I'm a massive Bowie fan.
Ground Control to Major Tom. You don't get anybody writing things like that anymore.
Just gets through some of these comments. Elly Bad Master says, "I have been my favourite Elvis song, same as mine." We've got Peter M. I watched the Lunar Land. Oh yeah, we went through that. American Trilogy, Glory, Glory. Yeah, that's one of my top 5 favorite Elvis songs. I have to say, that should be the national anthem of America. To be fair, that song is a national anthem for America. It's the unofficial national anthem. Brad Matthews. I remember the moon landing. Anyone who thinks it didn't happen is a complete. Leave that to your imagination.
Yeah.
In the Gregory 67 Summer of Love, of course it was.
Yeah. Do you remember Mungo Jerry?
Yeah.
I mean, he was early 70s actually, but I liked him.
Brad Matthews says the moon landing and Live Aid are my biggest memories. Look, I can remember Live Aid. We are going to get our moon landing. I'm so jealous. You're going to get 2 in a lifetime. We're getting our first one.
I know.
Peter Rand said, following on from my Jagger comment, the first single I ever bought with my pocket money was Jumping Jack Flash. That said, my favourite band were Queen and the Jimi Hendrix Experience.
Yeah.
So 2 mentions there. My first record I bought with my pocket money, I went down to Woolworths. You remember Woolworths?
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, and I bought the single "Wake Me Up Before You Go Go" by Wham. That was my first.
Is that right? Yeah. Somebody told me that Woolworths were German. Is that right?
I don't
know whether they're giving me false information to wind me up. But somebody told me they were German.
Tell me it had something to do with Woolworths. All the pick and mix we had when we were kids. I
Let
don't
me
know.
research it.
I've
I've never researched it before, but I've just taken that person's word for it. They might have been winding me up.
Brad Matthews, but it was amazing. I can't tell you how much it's ingrained on my life. Yeah, I bet it did. We've got Brad Matthews. I'm jealous, Ellie. Peter M
Yeah.
says, growing up in the 1960s was amazing. My childhood was so full of promise. Little did we know of climate change and the pollution we suffered. Well, yeah, I mean, Peter, that's a whole different show we can go into. And maybe one late night show or one late night show, or one show that maybe in the summer we'll do something off the cuff. We might even go into that. We got Peter M says CCR were okay. Yeah, they were. Brad Matthews says take care, Phillip. Peter M, North London Derby, coys. Look, we will get any sorts of North London.
Oh my God, I'm so looking forward to that match. And do you know what? Spurs ladies are playing tomorrow at the Emirates, and I'll be going to that match.
Yeah, so we'll get that for you in a minute, Ellie. We got love, from Andrew. So does Phillip. So do I actually. I thought they did the original Proud Mary, I think, or was that Tina Turner? I can't remember who did it first.
They're American. Woolworths are American. Just looked them up.
Yeah, something tells me Tina Turner did the original Proud Mary. Was it? I can't remember. I think
Proud Mary.
Yeah,
I'll research that as well. That's why we've got Google.
Good evening. White Hart Lane was in earlier. I'm sorry I missed your comment, White Hart Lane. If you're still watching, good evening, sir.
Oh, I love that name.
Same here. Peter M, the summer of '67 was the summer of getting my first big train set. It's all coming out now, Ellie.
It was first recorded, Proud Mary, by Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Turner and I did a cover.
Yeah, they did a cover.
Elvis did a cover in the early '70s as well for some of his shows as well. Brad Matthews says Crackling Rose, Neil Diamond was mine. I've never really been a big Neil Diamond fan.
I don't know that one. I don't know that one.
It's a good song.
I don't know it. Maybe if I heard it, I'd know it, but I just don't know the title.
Woolies was originally American, Ellie. From
I just looked it up. American. See, my friend always finds me up.
Andrew Gregory says my first record I bought was the Beatles' "She Loves You." God, that was back in the. But we mustn't despair. No, and then Peter M says big up. Look, Ellie, before we finish up, we just want to touch on. Hang on, let me take that and let me take that question. Look. We've got Armenia on. We've got England lost tonight. They sadly got relegated. I'll just read the Peter M. I was into music in the '60s because I had an older brother who introduced me to all of the artists. Yeah,
that's lovely. Like me as well. I had older brothers who introduced me, but I got into soul music later on. Soul and the black artists of America. I like.
I loved Aretha Franklin. I loved the
Franklin. Billie Holiday. I loved from the '50s. Brilliant.
The early Motown, America '60s.
Yeah, they were fantastic. You've got Alexander O'Neill. You've got Luther Vandross, Marvin Gaye. They were brilliant. And then
Marvin Gaye had a bit of
yeah, he did, but you know, I think his father shot him, didn't he?
Or did he shoot his father?
I think his father shot him. I don't know. Right.
I
think his father shot him.
This weekend is the Ellie. Look, you mean normally we're probably one of us is right. I'm probably wrong. You're probably right.
This weekend is the lull before the storm. Yes. I'm so looking forward to that match. James Brown, brilliant.
Here's a question for you, Ellie, and for
Little Richard.
Which film did James Brown appear in the '80s? And
was it
living in America. Hang on, Ellie. Before you answer it, give the chat a bit. Send it to me privately.
Yeah.
The answer. See if it.
Let the chat do it. Let the chat do it.
We've got Atlantic Solar Grey. Yeah. Paul Pablo says, "I'm shocked how old I am. I see the Beatles, Finsbury Park, Astra. It was 6-year-old birthday present. I still. Wow, you got to see the Beatles.
Yeah, wow. To go and see the Beatles. Imagine that. Yeah.
Marvin Gaye did shoot his dad.
Oh, Marvin Gaye shot his dad.
So I was right.
Oh my God, I thought it was the other way round. You see, this is my friend who tells me these things. I'm blaming my friend. Or maybe it's just my memory.
Just go to my favourite friend who I use all the time, Google.
Google is a very good one. Yeah.
Sam Cooke.
Yeah.
Fantastic. The Blue Brothers.
I used to like Smokey Robinson as well. Yeah. And obviously later on Michael Jackson.
Andrew Gregory says Rocky Tree. You are in the right franchise, but you're on the wrong number. That's the
yeah. Rocky Free. Is he talking about the music from Rocky Free?
No.
Andrew.
It happened in the middle of Rocky. James Brown sang Living in America in one of the Rocky films. Which one?
Okay.
Ellie's got it. I think she has got it.
It must be the first one. It must be.
Look, we've had 16 likes. We've had up to 95 views. We've got 16 likes. Come on, let's get it up to 25 before the end of the show.
Come on. Let's hit that like button, everybody. Come on.
It does help with the algorithm. It really does help with the algorithm.
Click it. Click.
Sorry, I got it wrong. Gay shot dead by his dad. Best checking this before, but yeah, I think Elly did get it right, and I got it wrong. So
yeah. Marvin Gaye was shot by his dad. That's what I thought happened.
Do you know what he wanted though? He wanted something healing. That's what he wanted, Elly, and he couldn't get it.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And that was a bad song, actually. For me, look, I'm looking forward to doing the 70s show next Friday. But some of the hits in the 70s and the news stories in the 70s are mind-blowing. Let us know in the chat, are you enjoying this end of the show about the news and the music and the chats about memory? So if you are, we will include it into the show next week. So let us know.
And remember to vote for Højbjerg for September Player of the Month.
I've already done it. I've done it 5 times already.
Come on, Højbjerg, he deserves it.
I know the people call him Holberg.
Højbjerg.
Sport, Sky, everywhere it's Holberg. And
no, they're wrong. Because I actually got it from his mouth. I said, how do you pronounce your name? Pierre-Emile Højbjerg.
We've got Brad Matthews. I saw James Brown in 1988. He started with Living in America. Right, I'll give you a clue. That's the song he sang in one of the Rocky films. Which Rocky film? And I give you an extra point. Who was Apollo Creed fighting in that fight? Peter M says very much. Brad saying yes. Look, we're keeping this segment into the shows, Elly. People are enjoying this.
Yeah, of course. I'm not going to say the answer. Let somebody guess it in the chat.
Yeah. Elly, look, the 60s was great for Spurs, but look, let's turn our attention to North London Derby for a few minutes before we end.
Yeah, I'll gladly talk about that.
My own opinion is I think we play 3-5-2. We stuff out the midfield.
Yeah.
And I think we win 3-1. I think Højbjerg will get 1. I think Harry will get 1. And Sonny will get 1. Look, we will remain unbeaten to the World Cup. I'm convinced in that. And also with the Conte rumours, Andrew Gregory, it's not Rocky Tree. Rocky Tree is a no-no. So you've either got Rocky 1, 2, 4, 5, was
Come on,
Cleese.
another guess, Andrew. Google it.
But not Rocky True. I'll give you a clue. It wasn't Rocky 1 or 2. It's either 4, 5, or 6. So there's your biggest clue. I'll give you one more clue as well.
Yeah.
It's in Russia.
Okay.
Now,
I was
that
that
doesn't give it,
Dolph
that doesn't give it away.
Dolph
Nothing.
Lundgren.
Yeah, no, he wasn't fighting. Rocky was not fighting Putin in the fight. No, he wasn't. No, to be fair. Look,
Yeah.
Frank quickly started the CONTE nonsense about him leaving. The club is saying they hold the
Been
option.
nipped in the bud, hasn't it?
Are you pleased that Tottenham hold the option, not Conte?
Yeah, I am, because obviously if he does jump ship, we can ask for a massive compensation package, you know, because we don't want to leave ourselves high and dry. Because he has got a reputation of leaving clubs high and dry, hasn't he? So unless he got the sack, at Chelsea he got the boot. Into Milan he just left because he thought, right, they're not matching my ambition. I've just won them the league, and now they've got all these financial problems. So no, I'm just glad that we're holding the cards. But I personally think he's going to sign, because I think he's fallen in love with Spurs.
Yeah,
I genuinely think that. I just think that he genuinely loves the way the fans treat him, and he's, because we are a lovable club as well. It's only other people that don't love us. It's just we love ourselves. We love ourselves enough for everybody. Yeah, because we're a fantastic club. We shouldn't undersell ourselves, because we can compete at the very top. We just got to believe in ourselves a bit more. And Conte's brought that belief back, and he's brought back a sturdiness to our team. Okay, we're not playing the prettiest of football, but we're getting the results at the end of the day. So if we win the league this way, I want to see us bringing that trophy down Italian style, and we'll hire Andreas Bocelli like the Leicester people did. To sing us down Tottenham High Road. That'd be fabulous.
And very quickly, England being relegated from Group A in the Nations League into Group B. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, they just deserve it because they haven't upped their game. They've been playing very tentative, typical Southgate football, not adventurous. He was saying how well we've done in terms of results, but in terms of the football, it's not been good enough. And he doesn't play enough offensive players who can actually hurt the opposition. I'll give prime example, Jack Grealish. He always brings him on at 60 or 70 minutes, sometimes even later than that. The poor boy, and he's been playing out of his skin for Man City this season. He's in form, and he actually said, I'm going to play the players in form. So why isn't he playing him? I just don't get it. And that now they've got their just rewards. They've been relegated. So, all for him, isn't it?
Well, look, Peter M says, who wouldn't fall in love with Spurs with our first-class training ground and stadium? Exactly.
Yeah, even Mourinho said that. He said the pillows and the beds.
England deserve it. His Dyer didn't do much wrong. Well, look, I didn't watch it.
What I saw of the first half, he played very well, Dyer. He didn't do much wrong.
Well, look, we've come to the end of the show. I've really enjoyed it, Elly. I've enjoyed doing it.
Yeah.
I thought it's been a blast.
It's been brilliant. And all the people in the chat, I commend you as well for all the lovely questions you put in, and all the good knowledge they've got, haven't they? In the chat. Fantastic knowledge.
I mean, this show wouldn't be anything without chat. Brand Matthews put here very quickly. We would have won Euro 20 if there had been a more adventurous. Look, my thought on that and that final, you were 1-0 up. I think if you'd scored 2 or more in the first half, I think you would have buried Italy.
Yeah.
And Peter M had a blast. This is my first time following. Well, Peter M, I'm glad you had a blast. That means a lot.
Yeah.
You still haven't told me the James Brown's answer. Look, Ellie, do you know what it is? Which Rocky film it was and who?
Well, if it was in Russia, it must be Rocky 5.
No, it was actually Rocky 4.
Ah.
And who was the boxer in
Rocky
Rocky 4?
See, I'm not really au fait with me Rockies. I like watching the films.
Apollo Creed was coming out to fight Ivan Drago in the expedition, and James Brown did his entrance.
Rocky 4 is the answer.
Living in America.
What do you think the score prediction for the Arsenal Spurs game is going to be?
Me 3-1.
So we're going to win 3-1, yeah?
Yeah. And if Arsenal call it off because of a rail strike, I've got one answer for them Arsenal fans and players.
We should send Richarlison down there to do the chicken.
Hang on, there you go. I can't do it because I'm too near. We're looking to get a couple of Arsenal fans on, aren't we, Elly?
When you want to do the show, I've got them in line anyway. They'll come on anytime we want them.
We're doing it next week before the Arsenal game, so that show will be coming next week.
Show. Yeah, I'll contact them tomorrow.
Yeah. Brad Matthews hit the nail on the head. Great song, crap film. Exactly.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you're a kid, Rocky films are great. When you grow up, you realise how crap they were. Peter Ram says, we will meet again on other Spurs fan sites for sure. Yeah, well, we're back on Sunday, Peter. We're going to build up to the Armenia game. We're going to talk about the England-Germany game with Elly. Hopefully Dave House will be on with us, or definitely Phillip will be with us as we build up to the Ireland. Armenia. We'll be talking about Ireland, Scotland as well. Andrew Gregory, loved the show, guys. Really enjoyable. Thank you so much.
Andrew. Thank you very much.
Matthews, great show, guys. Loved it. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you, Brad.
And we will smash those. Yeah, smash them likes.
Yeah,
we don't like
them.
And look, we're trying. We're 326 away from 1,000. Let's get there before the World Cup, and that would be great. And then Ram says postponement didn't go so well for the Gunners last season, did it? No. And why I think we're going to beat Arsenal? That game at White Hart Lane last season when we beat them, I think has done more damage to them mentally than it has anything else. So, well, look, we've got me and Elly. We're going to go in depth in the Tottenham Arsenal, the build-up. We're going to have a Tottenham Arsenal history show with Tottenham through the years. We're going to go right back to the start when the first game, through special matches. We're going to do an old Tottenham Arsenal watch along. I can't get the 91 Cup final, but I found a few 80 games. I've even found when we played them in the 70s as well. So we've got a few of them. Elly and me are going to get on a couple of Arsenal fans. We're going to have a debate with them and have a bit of fun. And then we do the build-up then next Friday night for the Arsenal game. Saturday, I will be doing a live watch-along. Hopefully, Elly will be with me. Hopefully, Phillip will be with me as well. We're going to get Shamu on as well. He's our usual watch-along co-host. And we've got a lot of stuff coming next week. We're going to have... This is your channel for history, for today, the past. On this channel, we dare to dream. And we're there to do. So thank you all so much for watching. Elly, thank you for being with me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elly. Elly, I'll see you in the background for a few minutes. Everyone, please like, subscribe, and tomorrow I think Dave House is doing a watch along to the Ireland game, Scotland game. I think I'm on there. Please go over there, hit the like and subscription on his channel, the Flat Cup Euro Talk, the 3 Spurs boys as well, with Bobby K and the 3 boys, because Elly does a bit for them as well. And United Spurs of America. Jacob will be sorting out. We will bring Jacob on next week, or the week after with United Spurs America. We'll do a show with them. So we've got a few good things coming up.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for watching. Had a blast tonight. Really enjoyed it. I think it's time for my beddy boys. Come on, you Spurs.
And as always, come on, you Spurs, and CONTE we trust.
Come on, I was going to say, come on, you Spurs girls. That just didn't.
Come on, you Spurs ladies. As an ex-Spurs lady myself, Come on, you Spurs ladies. Beat the Arsenal
Yep.
tomorrow.
On
Beat the
your balls and
Woolwich.
green. Beat Scotland tomorrow. We show England how to play football. See you later.
Yeah. Troy,
What was that, Ellie?
Troy Parrott. Troy
Troy
Parrott. Come
That's it.
on. Matt
Oh,
Doherty.
England relegated. What a gas.